Hey there guys, how's it going? In today's video I've actually got a section from the official Survive the Ark live stream that happened earlier in the week. Every 2 weeks they do like a community crunch live on the official Ark live stream, which is Survive the Ark, and I got invited on this week as a guest. Now they invited me on and said, Jay, we know you've played a lot of console, a lot of our console viewers get a bit frustrated we never feature anything like that. We also know that you play a lot of PvP, so would you like to come on, do a little like half-hour segment talking about PvP in general and some tips, and just showcase this on the PS4. Maybe we'll have a little bit of a talk about the console version of the game, how it differs from PC, all that kind of stuff. So I had a day or two to prepare some PvP tips, and then about a day also to set it up on the server, which you'll see. So what you're going to witness here is me just doing what I was asked to give some PvP tips. All kinds of stuff is in here. Most of it is kind of beginner general knowledge stuff, but I think there's some information here that will help people regardless of their experience on console or PC, and regardless of how much they've played the game. Although obviously it does help most people who are very experienced, don't need too many tips, but I think it's an interesting watch anyway. So it's a great opportunity for me to talk to the devs in this way. I had some people say they were a bit like frustrated that I didn't take this opportunity to discuss like PvP balance with the devs and all that stuff, but I wasn't asked on to do that. I wasn't asked to have come on and have an open free discussion about those things, and I can discuss those things with the devs regardless. Wildcard have quite a good setup. You can DM the devs. I know I've DM'd Jen, and Jeremy even follows me on Twitter. I PM sometimes and tell him about problems with the game, whatever, so they're definitely aware, and I can have those conversations in private and whatever. But this segment was specifically to do a little showcase of some PvP tips and show what I was talking about. So hope you guys enjoy that. I'm going to switch to the audio now. My voice is a little bit weird sounding. I don't know, it went through all their audio stuff and it sounds a little bit like muted or something, so I've done the best I can to adjust the audio. Hope you guys enjoy this, and I've got some more videos coming this week of a brand new ARK PvP series.
Alright, we're in spectator.
Okay, so I'm here in my sleeping pod. I'm not sure if you can see that, just a nice place to read. Number one tip, always put your tech stuff on thatch foundations. That is super wise to do. That was a joke. First tip really is check out this billboard. I mean, this is really, if you read this,
Where are we? Hold on. Where are we?
This is essential to really learning about the game.
Oh,
you know? So make sure to follow those instructions first of all. But on a more serious note, it is a very good idea to follow lots of YouTubers and streamers and watch a lot of ARK. There's always something to learn. Even if you want to do PvP, maybe even just watch PvP people. They quite often come up with cool building methods, farming methods that you might not realize. So just get yourself subscribed to lots of ARK channels, lots of Twitch streams, and you'll probably pick up a lot of tips along the way. So that's kind of a tip, so to speak.
There you go.
What I've got set up here actually is just, I mean, you guys asked me to do some tips, so we're just going to go over some of the dinos that are quite useful. Most people know what dinos to get ready, but we're just talking about what you might want to go for early game. So in this small pen here, we've got basically the earlier game PvP dinos. So if you're brand new on a server or you don't have a big tribe, this kind of goes in with the whole idea of if you're going to play PvP and you don't have the resources to be the alpha, you really probably want to build hidden and small. So you're going to want a small dino pin. And also, I also have a backup plan because you might get smashed if you get found. But anyway, these are just some basic tames I'll open up here. Outside, of course, we've got the Palovia. Very easy to tame. And they can't be found once they're buried, not very easily, unless there's explosive damage in the area. So very, very highly recommend taming one of those, sticking your gear in there. Basically, everything that you might need to start over again, stick some of that in a Palovia. And if you do get raided, you might have some of your stuff saved. We've got a few dinos here, which are just mainly for kibble, dodo, which will give you the egg for Pteranodon kibble, and Dilo, which will give you the egg for, I think, Doed and Anki kibble. Both things are very, very useful to have as a PvP player. And then inside, we've got your classics. Pteranodons, although obviously they got a nerf not too long ago, they are still one of the kings for being in a small tribe and just getting around, doing some griefing on PvP. And the rest of the dinos in here are things that are small enough to fit through a dino gate and in a small pen, but still very useful. Obviously, we've got the RG, which recently had a an overhaul, and it's pretty incredible now. It can pick up an Anki, it can pick up a Doed, which you couldn't do before, and awesome for farming. Basically, a must-have dino now, absolutely, because they're quite easy to tame as well. We've got the Parasaur, of course, with its new alert ability, which will alert you to anyone in the area if you turn on its turret mode, which is incredible.
Yeah, Parasaur.
Yeah, Parasaurs. Everyone has a Parasaur now. Every alpha tribe, every small tribe has a Parasaur.
That makes me really happy.
It's great, really. It's actually not that great if you want to PvP like grief people, because he keeps triggering and it's hard to sneak up on people, but you know, it's good for the Parasaur. We've got the Anki, obviously, great now with the Argent, so you can actually have this at a low level, and it's actually worth having. Phiomia for poops, because if you are starting up or you're in a small tribe, you're going to want quite a few plant species probably, and Phiomia produces poop to throw in your dung beetles or in your compost bin for an X, because they are fert machines. They'll make all your fertilizers for you. I've also got a bear, which is probably one of my favorite small they are fert machines. They'll make all your fertilizers for you. I've also got a bear, which is probably one of my favorite small tribe or like small PvP tames, because it's so good at lots of different things. It can get you fiber, it's good at gathering hide and meat, it's great at gathering berries, it's also small enough to fit through a dino gate, and it's quite tanky as well, so it can actually take out some quite bigger dinos, low level alphas perhaps, and definitely standard T-Rexes if you get a decent bear. Also quite easy to tame on honey, and once you get one you can easily get more honey because they have that protection now. We've got a beaver here as well. I like to have a beaver. These are quite good because you can also get berries with these. People kind of overlook the fact that if you need a berry dino, you know, don't really think about beaver, but they're quite good for obviously that and wood. You can carry them with an Argent, and using the Argent and beaver combo, you can get an absolute ton of wood without having to have, you know, the big in the middle. So in a minute even. So yeah, that's like the small pen. That's basically all our miniature dinos. I have like any questions about any of that or whatever. It is what it is. We've got the Doed as well here.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty small area. For all that kind of stuff, that's actually pretty decent.
Well, when you play PvP, you know, I am talking about if you're not in a Mega Alliance and the Alpha
Yeah,
tribe.
I feel like people who are in a Mega Alliance don't really need tips. I mean,
they don't need tips, so really this kind of thing isn't for them anyway, but it's worth saying that it's all about functionality in PvP. You know, you want as small area as possible because turret coverage needs to be as highly dense as possible. So making big boxes is normally a bad idea. So if you can throw lots of useful dinos in a small box, it's going to be easier for you to cover turret-wise. And if you are hiding, it's going to be easier for you to hide from bigger tribes.
Awesome.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep. Now let's have a look at some of the big boy dinos that I've got over here in the bigger pen. These are the things where if you're going to be doing proper raiding and high-end farming, you're gonna need and want a lot of these pretty familiar dinos. Obviously, we've got the Quetzal, still the king. There was a day when the Quetzal was an absolute tank as well, so you could use them more as battle Quetzals, but ever since the speed nerf and whatever, you don't tend to use them as much as battle Quetzals, but they're still useful, obviously, for their incredible weight and their platform saddle. Inside here, we've got the Rex. Most mega tribes and big tribes like to have some Rexes. They're really good at boss fights, and they can be okay in PvP situations. They're not going to be a really good imprinted Rex, Giga even, but Rexes can still do a decent job. We've got the Parasaur. Obviously, you can put a platform saddle on this, and you can go and soak some turrets with that, no problem. Quite good at that. The Stego, again, a good soaker. A little bit slower, obviously, than a Parasaur, but you can pick up with your Quetzal if you've got that. Theories, which are pretty popular. These are actually, they're quite good at being not just farming dinos, but they're almost like miniature Rexes. A lot of people use good high level, high melee damage theories in PvP because they're good at going collecting kits. If you see people's dead bodies, you quite often like get on your theory and go run pick up their kit and come back. The only real downside that I don't like about theories is they can be picked up by Quetzals, which Rexes can't. So I tend to prefer sitting on a Rex or obviously a Giga if I can, but you know, theories still have their place. Procoptodon, obviously, this isn't really a high level thing, but it's just something I thought to spawn in. But they are super useful, obviously, now that we've got their well, their new abilities that they've got, the pouch ability with the raising dinos, and their crazy jump. I don't know if the jump was made bigger, but the jump is
Oh, it
now,
was. It's basically the Carcanos jump now.
Yeah, so anyone who's never really seen this jump is gonna be like, "What the heck is this?" I actually think
See ya.
it's higher, yeah, than the Carcanos jump. I actually did a test, so it's absolutely ridiculous. You can bounce into people's bases if that, well, it's not really something we'll do in Procopton, but you never know. Good for getting around. Just, you know, got good weight. They're not terrible at all. Definitely useful now, at least. And then, of course, we've got Wyverns. If you're on Ragnarok or Scorched Earth, if you want to be getting yourself some Wyverns. Generally good all-rounders. They're quite fast, quite good for getting places. Kind of weak because they don't have a saddle, so no saddle protection. But, you know, you hit people with that poison blast, you hit them with the lightning, a lot of people are going to die pretty quickly. So still good. We've got Brontos, of course, massive soakers. These are the ones that I think they have the highest health out of the herbivore soakers, but obviously you can get great platform saddles for them. You can make cool little structures on them. I quite often put a Daedon inside a box on top of the Bronto, and obviously use a mate boost as well. And that's another tip, I guess, if I don't get a chance to mention that. If you are going to soak turrets, don't forget about mate boost. Mate boost will really, really help when you're trying to soak. A lot of people just completely forget about it, but if you can get a mate boost going on, it will really help. And then
what are you saying when you're saying soak?
Soak turrets. I mean,
okay, so soaking up the bullets.
Yeah, soaking up the bullets. Obviously, you've got two ways of looking at turrets. You can either just try and kind of rush them, like so push in with a big dino and then have someone either underneath the dino come in and run in and put C4 on the structure, or you can actually try and soak all the bullets out of the turret. So depends on the situation, how much under fire are you, you know, different situations call for different action, I guess. This is a little turret tower that I made. This is a turret tower that I would suggest for somewhere that has a choke point, or maybe if you're inside a cave, like a large cave, basically somewhere where everything is going to come from one direction. Like, this is a terrible turret tower if people can approach from 360, but if people are forced to approach from the front, it's not too bad. Like, it's quite cheap to make. The turrets are well spaced out. I tend to find if you put them closer together than that, then they actually block each other's line of sight sometimes. And I put a few plants there and a few turrets on the floor, always essential. Ideally, you want to be pairing plant species with turrets, not just one. Ideally, you want both. And I like to have plants on high and turrets on medium so that people have to be being hit by the plants to soak the turrets, because soaking turrets with the plant species hitting you is kind of annoying because you can't move as quickly and you can't see as well. So it's just an ideal turret tower. There's much better turret towers out there and about, but that's just a general idea. If we move over here I made a little pyramid. Again, if you want to be an alpha tribe or you want to be in the Mega Alliance, don't build this base. But this is just a little something for early days or small tribe base. Pyramids are quite good. They're actually the most effective in terms of the least resources for the highest amount of explosive that needs to get in to the middle. And also, if you make a pyramid, you can put the plant species on the sloped roofs here, which is nice. It gives them a nice angle as well. So I quite like to do pyramids if I can, but don't rely on just the pyramids. You want to have good turret towers around. And this is just a small one.
It kind of has like a bit of camouflage to it too.
Yeah, the plants give it that little bit. I mean, ideally, what I would do, I mean, this base spot I've chosen here is just to show you like an okay spot that has a choke point to it. Like, land dinos are forced to come through quite a narrow point up here. But this is, I would put something like this in the middle of a forest normally. Ideally up high, but, you know, a small hidden base just when you're getting started is the key. Oh, there's my real life hyena on.
I hear Pupper.
Yeah, I don't know what he's buffing at. Nothing, of course, as by usual. So yeah, this is pretty standard. I've double layered this. If you look inside, I'm not a master of building highly effective small PvP bases, but I've lived in many. So inside, Jim will probably notice that there's no room really for anything.
It's very tight.
Yeah, it's highly functional. It's double layered. There are turrets in here. There are 3 vaults, I think. No, 2 vaults in here. Some regular storage. We've got bookshelf. We've got fridges. We've also got obviously a fabricator and a smithy. Now, normally, if you're actually quite a big tribe, people don't tend to use their fabricators and smithies that are inside where they actually keep their gear. Normally, people have big crafting stations where they do all their mass crafting. But again, this is more for someone who hasn't got that luxury and has to build in a small area. But gives you a good idea to show you can actually have a protected. This generator is actually protected here as well in the middle. And yeah, people want to blow that up. They're going to have to use quite a lot of explosives. And if you're at this size in your ARK life, probably not worth raiding you with all that explosives. You know, they're not really going to get that much out of it. I tend to like to think that I like to make my base hard enough to raid so that I'm at a point where if I've got a lot, basically, if I'm not worth raiding, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I like it so that it's difficult enough to raid so that if they've used like 50 C4, they're probably not going to want whatever's inside. So it's all about making them work for it.
For those that are just joining us, we have Jay with us. He's showing around some purpose-built stuff. People are asking, they're like, Dev is ghosting someone's base. No, that's not what's going on.
What? Yeah,
this is my PS4 server. Jay is on my server.
Yeah, this isn't official. Like, we're not going to raid your base, dudes. Don't worry. So opposite here is just a basic turret tower. This is the kind of thing I might throw down if I need to throw down a few to cover a 360-degree area, or even just to cover an area. I like this cross design because it allows you to have to get through multiple walls to get to the generator while also not using that many resources. So really, this is just a cost-effective, low-level kind of turret tower. It's not going to stop any kind of big tribes with big Soka dinos, but it's going to be a pain for anyone who doesn't have anything too crazy. And definitely always a combination of plants. Even if you could only stick 2 plants on here and 4 turrets, it might still be worth making this. And you'll see I've actually done it in a way. The catwalks do actually block the plant species from getting watered, but if you move them far enough down, on the backside here, this one I was able to get into a position where it would still get watered naturally, but on this side I couldn't, so I actually just placed it on the floor. But on this side, I managed to put this one on the slope, because if you look above, the 2 catwalks are kind of either side of it rather than on top of it, so that allows the plant species to actually get watered, which is nice. And always, of course, with some turrets on the ground. Again, I'm not a turret tower expert. There's some great tutorials around, and there's some amazing ideas around that might be even better. But this is definitely a cost-effective thing you can throw up, and you can either make it a few turrets on there, or you can throw loads on there.
Awesome.
So yeah. The only other things I really wanted to mention, we've got a little bit left, is I guess some tips for people who are kind of new. Like, for instance, I've got on me like a little kit here. I've got a full PvP kit on me. It's essential really, if you are going to go around fighting people, that you have certain things on you. Ideally, you want to have bowlers, you want to have grapples, you want to have parachutes, whips, and then as well, ideally, something to fight with. Maybe a pump action shotgun, maybe some flame arrows or whatever. But have those things on your hotbar. Grapples, obviously, you can grapple out of being picked up by dinos. A whip, so you can whip people off their dinos, and you can whip stuff off of people's hands. Maybe even a club. But yeah, learn what kind of things you're going to need to have on you, and also get used to putting them in the same place on the hotbar, because the last thing you want to do is get picked up by someone on Argent and then you're actually thinking about what you need to press to pull out the whip. You know, you don't, seconds count in survival in PvP, so you need to make it instinctive, and you do that by putting things on the same place on your hotbar, whether you're on console or PC. I always have like my whip on number 5, for example, on PC, or I have it at L1 and square on console, and that is in there instinctively. That's something to remember. We'll just talk a little bit about custom recipes. I didn't actually have time to set up any custom recipe stuff, but something to remember. We'll just talk a little bit about custom recipes. I didn't actually have time to set up any custom recipe stuff, but Jen asked a little bit about superfoods and things like that, if they're worth doing. Quite often we'll use a full crafting skill character to make recipes for food. So maybe you'll make something that costs like 5 or 6 mushrooms or 8 raw meat, and it will give you 100 food. We tend not to make things that give you a lot of health, because if you make health food, it relies on you being hungry. It's also not as fast as med brews. So med brews will be effective whether you're hungry or not hungry. They're super, super quick. And really, please. Once you're up Alpha Tribe status, you shouldn't really have much trouble making med brews. They are a bit of a pain to make if you don't have an industrial cooker, but once you do that, for health regen, you really want to be talking about med brews, maybe even some soups and stuff. Get to know your soups, they can be useful. Lazarus chowder is super, super useful, early stage game. Get your crops going, make Lazarus chowder, and that will allow you to swim underwater for a lot longer than you'd be able to without it. Another thing I wanted to mention is always have an organized base, because if you get raided and you need to get the guns and no one knows where the guns are, no one knows where the whips are and the bowlers, always have a fully stocked base ready with everything that you need to defend your base. So a dedicated vault to either one of like flak, for example, or a dedicated couple of vaults to PvP kits, we normally call them. So everything you need to fight is in one place, and as soon as you need to fight, you go there, you get it. It's absolutely horrendous when the base is a mess and you need to fight. You know, you're pulling charcoal out of smithies and it's just a mess. So that is a nightmare scenario. The more organized you are, the more effective you're going to be at defending your base.
I completely agree.
Yeah, and the nicer your experience in general, like when you're doing everything. So keep it organized. And if you've got anyone in your tribe who doesn't organize, kick them. They're useless. Yeah,
kick them.
Waste of time.
Get out if you can't organize.
Yeah,
get out.
Which I guess goes along with choose your tribe mates carefully, because obviously it is PvP.
Oh, yeah.
You're probably going to be spending a lot of time talking to these people, so try and make sure it's people you get on with. And of course, my dog has not barked all day. I know he's barked all the time, but. Yeah, make sure it's people you get on with and you can have fun with. And I would even say sometimes it's worth just playing with people you like rather than people who know the game, if you know what I mean. Depending on your situation, obviously. But it's all about just having a fun time with your friends and enjoying ARK for what it is. Obviously, if you can get an elite squad of PvP legends going, then that's great. But that's not always the case. So people you can trust and people that you have fun hanging out with, it's always good to find those people for your tribe.
And that's not even just an ARK tip. I feel like that's a life tip.
Yes.
Just like surround yourself with some good people.
Yeah, I mean, you get to meet a lot of people. I've been a part of mega tribes where all of a sudden you've got to be friends with like 400 people, and you don't know any of them, you don't know their situation, you don't know their attitudes, and you soon find within those big tribes, if you do go into them, who you like hanging out with and who you like playing with, who suits your mood and your style of play. So just be careful who you play with, because obviously their attitude and their playstyle will probably rub off on you a bit. So you don't want to hang out with too many like toxic people if you can avoid it, or if you want to go full toxic, knock yourself out and enjoy yourself. But just be wary of who you invite in, because you never know who you're playing with. So, but you kind of need to be in a big tribe to really do anything. So that's that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I had a couple of questions that I saw that I thought were interesting while we've got a few minutes left. I saw Z-Unit asked in the chat, do console players stat their character the same as they do on PC, or is there any differences in like the stat meta between platforms?
Well, I found it's pretty similar. I mean, most people love movement speed. Obviously, if you're a PvP player, most people don't have under 150 movement speed. It's almost like that would be a nightmare to have under 150 movement speed. Although personally, I like low movement speed servers because I like the way it changes the game. But yeah, it seems pretty similar. Obviously, we've got the problem with armor now, weighing a bit more. So you've got the respec for a bit more weight. Personally, I don't do any melee at all. I don't actually know what. I mean, I have watched some PvP on PC, but it seems the same from what I can see. Some people do put silly points in silly things, in my opinion, but that's just based on how I like to play. I am going to be out there fighting, so I need that movement speed. I need maybe a bit of stam. I need a point in fortitude so I don't get smashed by a Trudon in one hit. I like, some people go super low health. You can do that if you've got really good armor kits, but if you are just starting or you don't have really good armor, you might need to go up in health another 100 rather than a mega tribe who has amazing armor. They can forgive a little bit more health, add more movement speed. Most people I don't go melee anymore unless they're doing a specific build. But it seems I think it's more based on the player than the platform, to be honest.
Makes sense.
Yeah, look, some people I know can't live without like 500 weight, but obviously not everyone's gonna have that.
One of the interesting things I find watching the differences between platforms, I feel like there's a lot more gigas on console. Like, there are a lot of gigas on PC, but if you've never played on console, I don't think you understand how many gigas console players have. They just have like
people love
so many on console.
It's like the trophy dino, really.
Yeah.
And when I watch big PvP mega raids, I've never really been in PC mega raids. I've only been in like console ones, but I've watched them, and when you watch the PC ones, there does seem a bigger variety of dinos. One dino I love is the Reaper King. It can soak, it can jump around, it can do damage. It's just great, really great to be sitting on in a raid, in my opinion. But yeah, you do tend to find, I find that PC less gigas, but you go and watch console versions, console videos, and you'll just see massive giga meat runs. People love a meat run with gigas. And I guess that's just how they PvP, different ways.
Yeah, I think the Parasaur is definitely one of the top PC PvP ones. Obviously, there's Theories and Rexes, but I see a lot of Parasaurs, way more Parasaurs on PC than I see on console. Yeah. Obviously, consoles have Parasaurs, not saying they don't, but there's definitely a difference there.
Because, well, you've got to think about it like this as well. Some of the PC people especially are super hot with their breeding, so their Parasaurs might have 10,000 more health than your average console Parasaur. Maybe not so much anymore, but possibly. And also, Parasaurs are smaller, they're easier to hide, they're easier to maneuver. Like if you ever try to walk a Bronto up some weird mountain, it's not great. But a Parasaur, it's a lot nicer, and they're not that much worse. They're not that much worse than a Bronto in terms of their health. So yeah, Parasaurs are one of the top tier ones. Every big Mega Tribe will have amazing Parasaurs for sure.
Well, it's about, I think we should wrap up this segment. Does anybody else have questions for Jay, Crisp, Zen?
No, I'm a complete noob, so it's always good listening to those that have so much knowledge in this stuff.
I feel like my survival time might have increased from about 10 to 20 seconds.
Yeah. just one point in fortitude and you'll survive a Trude on hit. That's the biggest tip. You'll survive a Trude on hit, which is the worst when you're starting off on the beach. And always have parachutes. I tend to find that one thing I'm really good at, especially because I played a lot of Survival of the Fittest, is getting away from bad PvE situations. Like, if you're in danger, always have parachutes ready to get the hell out of there. Or like, don't always try and fight the dino. Don't always try and fight the situation if it doesn't suit you. Just get out of there quick, and then come back and make the situation suit you. I mean, that's something I even learned from playing a lot of Call of Duty. You want to go on long streaks, don't go running into the middle of the battlefield. Use the cover, back off, come back. And it's the same with a game like this when you're trying to survive. Be careful. If you see that Alpha Carno, be very aware. Don't walk over there. If you see Trudons in distance, be careful. Try and make sure you're always up high if you can, which is always useful, because if you're down the ground, you can't parachute away. Whereas if you're up on a little bit higher ground, being able to parachute off and get away from that dino that's chasing you might just save you. So you need to be good at PvE to be good at PvP, basically. So all those kind of things are important in PvP. Not just shooting people and making many.
You don't want to make little PvE mistakes when you're trying to win a fight.
If you watch great SOTF players and great PvPers, they always manage to get out of trouble. When they know they're going to lose the fight and things going down, they're really good at just getting out of trouble, using a grapple, using a whip, and just getting on. That's why movement speed's good. So that's something to remember. Don't just try and fight everything. You're not Superman. You're much better off coming back when the fight is in your favor.
I agree. Thank you so much, Jay, for joining us. Thank you for showing us around on the PS4. If you weren't paying attention, we were playing on the PS4 Pro, talking about PvP tips, mostly having to do with console, but obviously they are applicable to both. And I will do a little command in the chat, or if somebody else wants to do it, it's !JX, and you can check out his YouTube channel. Right now, he's doing videos on beginner servers, right, Jay?
Yeah, I'm going to probably play Extinction on the next reset. The last few months I've been playing Extinction PvP ARK Apocalypse, but at the moment we're messing around those beginner servers, seeing what they're like, trying to have a bit of fun with them, seeing what the PvP is like over there.
Great. I think the beginner servers are a great way to get started if you are in the chat and not super into PvP yet, but you'd like to try, the beginner servers are really neat because they are lower level cap, lower dino levels, basically lower everything. So you're not going to get immediately shot down by a level 115 character. So definitely check those out if you want to get a taste of PvP before joining the official complete network. So yes, thank you again, Jay, for joining us.
Thank you, Jay.
I really appreciate learning about
me on.
Thank you very
PvP
much.
from you.